Hi, my name is James, and this is a Cardano starter kit. Thanks for checking it out. The name of this starter kit is How to Talk About Cardano with Your Friends and Family. And if you're thinking, wow, that's a pretty presumptuous title, you're exactly right. I want to get something clear. I'm not an expert on this. I'm on this journey too, and I want to figure out how to get better at this. And if I do this starter kit right, you're going to have your own ideas at the end of it for how you want to talk about Cardano, for how you want to address different problems than the ones I want to address, okay? We're on a journey together. I really just want to kind of help get conversations going and then get out of the way. Now, I happen to be a teacher. We all have our own domains of expertise. Mine is education. And so what I want to do to start this starter kit is share a few education terms with you. If you're not a teacher, maybe you don't think about things in these terms, but I'm hoping that by throwing these ideas out there, these might prompt some line of thinking in your mind, and then you can pursue that. So I'm going to share these terms. Don't worry too much about remembering what the words are. I just want to get some ideas out there so that we can then use them as we move through this starter kit. If you find any of these ideas particularly useful, I'm providing some links for following up, but you can also join our conversation in the Gimbal Labs Discord if you want to continue these conversations, ask new questions, ask for further resources, and so on. So let's get going. Project-based learning is something that we're really big on at Gimbal Labs and at Workshop Maybe. And it's just based on this idea that people learn best by doing things. Similar to project-based learning is problem-based learning. We learn best when we have a chance to figure things out for ourselves. PBL is an acronym that's a really convenient catch-all for both of these terms because they're connected. When we work on projects, whether it's a home improvement project or a business project, anything we might want to accomplish out in the world, we run into problems. This is what software development is all about, right? We run into problems that we then have to figure out new things. And that's how we develop expertise. So there's always this give and take between the project I want to complete, the problems that emerge, and how I learn from both of those things. So when I use the acronym PBL, I'm kind of talking about both of these things at the same time. Now, whether we're talking about students or just grown-ups in the real world trying to accomplish real things, PBL gives us the opportunity to practice collaboration and executive functioning. Okay? Executive functioning is just planning and execution. How do you set priorities? How do you make plans? What do you need to do to get the job done? And of course, to solve most great problems, you need a team. You need to be able to collaborate with people. Teachers are always paying attention to formative assessment. This is not like taking the SATs or a big exam at the end of the year. Formative assessment happens all the time. And the point is never to call students out on what they do or don't know. It's for teachers to find out what students know so that teachers can help their students take the next step. The teacher's responsibility then is to provide scaffolding based on what I know about these learners. How can I help them understand what their next few steps might be? I'm going to provide scaffolding to help people along their journey. Of course, this doesn't happen all at once, but if we work hard at it, and if we iterate between formative assessment and scaffolding, what we're going to eventually do is provide people with more agency. And that's really my number one goal as a teacher. Anytime I teach, I judge the lesson to be successful if people go away from it having more ability to make their own decisions, more ability to define what their next steps are, ideas that they're really excited to follow through on. That's what learning is all about. So wrapped up in this is this distinction between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, right? Grades are extrinsic motivators, kind of like the token value of Cardano, if you think about it, right? Extrinsic motivation, these carrots and sticks out in the world. versus intrinsic motivation, which is the feeling that, ooh, I can't resist doing the next thing. I want to see this project through. I want to solve this problem because it matters to me. And finally, one more distinction between teaching and learning. I touched on this a little bit, but the focus for all teachers has to be, how much are people learning? Not how smart do I sound? Not how many of my ideas can I throw out there to the world, but how much are people really understanding? And this is an ongoing thing in teaching. If you walk into any school, you're going to see teachers on opposite ends and everywhere in between of this continuum between thinking teaching is about them standing up and delivering content and students actually understanding things. I've had a lot of good arguments about this over the years, but I come down pretty strongly on the end that it's not about me. It's about how much other people can understand. And you can let me know if it's working for this starter kit, okay? I encourage your participation. So, to summarize, teaching is only effective if it leads to learning. And as teachers, our role is to think about the people that we're trying to connect with and find the right projects, find the right problems, find the right metaphors, and find the right stories to tell so we can help people take the next step on their journey. Understand the next thing that they didn't understand before. So let's apply this to Cardano. Over the last few months, I've really started to recognize that preparing for a conversation with my friends or with my family is similar to how I plan to teach a lesson about high school algebra, okay? And so let's think about how a few of these things apply to planning for conversations about Cardano. First of all, planning and conversations are iterative. It's not like you go from planning and then you have a conversation and it's done, right? Any conversation is going to raise new questions for you. It's going to help you recognize things that you wish you were better at explaining. So you're going to have a chance to practice that, okay? It's really important to choose content selectively. There are so many opportunities. There's so many articles, blog posts, podcasts, videos out there where people talk about blockchain and Cardano. Don't just fill up on this content. Make sure you have a chance to digest what you're consuming. Make time to think and reflect on the ideas that you learn. And going back to this idea of executive functioning, right? Don't just watch everything. You don't have to keep up on everything. Choose carefully what's relevant to you, to the people you're trying to connect with. Our community is growing, right? Trying to keep up on every podcast is really hard. And I'm not going to name, there's no way to judge which podcasts are better than the others because there's no objective measure of that. It just depends on who you're trying to talk to and what you're trying to accomplish, okay? But do be selective. Whatever you select, do be selective and then make sure you have time to think through what you're ingesting, what you're consuming from a media perspective. Now, conversations help. If you've never gone to a Cardano blockchain meetup, I really recommend going on meetup.com. I'll leave a link to it and finding a Cardano blockchain meetup that's helpful to you. Join Discord and Telegram channels. Try ideas on Reddit to see how they go. This is all part and parcel with practicing, and you're going to discover the ways that make the most sense to you about how you're going to communicate. Because at the end of the day, the little things we do all add up. I am a firm believer that small actions over time lead to greater results than just grand speculation. Is it fun to talk about what Cardano is going to do over the next few decades? Absolutely. I can daydream about that all day, and I can have really high-spirited conversations inside the Cardano community about that. But if we really want to accomplish those things, it's not about just having those big picture conversations. It's about doing what we can do today to move the ball incrementally further towards that. The other metaphor, right? It's a marathon, not a sprint. We're not going to just flip the lights on one day. Gauguin's going to come out, right? We're learning about that right now, right? That's not the end of the story. That's just the beginning. And we all have work to do on a daily basis. One more metaphor. I love the metaphor of drops in the bucket. Okay. So I'm just listing different ways you can think about it here. Again, you might have a different way that you like to think about it. That's the most important thing. I'm just throwing a few ideas out there. So here's your task. For part 1 of this starter kit, I want you to balance content with reflection. Watch or listen to any podcast you want. I'll make some suggestions later in this starter kit, but don't follow me. Just whatever's relevant to you, to your goals, listen to a podcast about that. And then walk away. Put away the earbuds, put away your computer, whether it's, cooking dinner or doing some chores, going for a walk or staring out the window, whatever. Step away and spend some time contemplating metaphors or stories that will help you explain that idea. Then practice and iterate. Go have conversations. Go see how those metaphors land and see if they work out. Okay? Finally, make sure to keep your goals in mind. One of mine is increased agency. I want more people to be able to do more things, to be able to make their visions come to reality. For another way to think about goals and why this matters, let's take a look at what Josh was saying a couple weeks ago on the AfroFin Lab podcast. Check it out.
Like you are understanding right now, because I believe you're going to go back and do some more research. And trust me, you start talking to your friend about this thing. So that's how it starts, right? Each one reach one, right? So you need to go back. People need to start hearing and learning about this. The topic part of our motto is make this crypto nonsense make sense. People need to start making this crypto nonsense make sense to their friends. And that is the beginning of the revolution and adoption of the blockchain technology. And also, that is the first step that needs to happen before we can gradually, subliminally collect power from these power grabbers.
Yes, Josh, you see, this is why you're a great teacher. You see, you have this big, grand vision for the problems we're going to solve. What's the problem? Centralization, power, how centralized power can corrupt people, okay? We all want to undo that. We all want to push back against that. But how? Well, you named it. We got to take our first step. We have to have conversations with our friends. We have to get the word out there. And it's slow work, but we can help people understand this. One of the things that helps people gain understanding, like I've already mentioned, is metaphors and stories. Now, using metaphors takes practice, and that's why, again, conversations and planning are iterative. Let's take a listen to Sydney from that same episode of the podcast, using a metaphor that he leans on quite often.
What Joshua said is, I don't know. I can't say what people on this call know and don't know. I'm not sure who's an auto mechanic here and knows how an engine works. But clearly, I think that everyone on the call has driven a car before. So you don't need to know how the engine works in order to get in and turn the key and use the brake and the gas pedals.
Can you tell that Sydney has had a chance to practice using this metaphor of engines in automobiles and how it applies to the inner workings of blockchain? Okay. In that particular conversation, he was applying it to questions that we had about mass adoption, right? But that metaphor could also work in a one-on-one conversation with a newcomer to Cardano. And when you practice using metaphors, when you see how they fall, then you have more and more experience and you can apply them with more nuance to any conversation that you hit on. All right. So now I'm going to show me being kind of awkward with a metaphor. This was something that I thought of for the first time, and I probably wouldn't say it the same way. Check it out.
I just got this image as you were speaking of like a tide, just sort of like, and like people who are like in power, like standing in front of the tide, like, oh no, this isn't going to happen. But then like literally just like a wave, just because it's coming. I feel like we're in a time and a place globally right now where it's like people are I think there's a lot of like a lot of feeling of this sense of, you know, you're a government, you're meant to be here for us, and if you're not here for us, then, you know, we need to be here for ourselves. And I, you know, that's one of the things that hooks me when it comes to blockchain, and like this whole idea of decentralizing it and making it about what are the needs that we have, what are the problems that we have, like putting tools in people's hands.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Add that to the metaphor, right? We're trying to hand out as many dinghy boats and scuba gear and all the things so that all of us can be safe in that wave, right? It's happening, but we need people to understand that it's coming. Yikes. Well, I mean, Aziz's metaphor was great. This tidal wave coming over all of us, changing the world, right? And you could extend that one if you want to. And I got so excited about it that I jumped in with dinghy boats and scuba gear. I don't know if I would say it the same way as that again, right? But that's the whole point. When we have conversations, we have a chance to practice the way we say things, to practice the way things resonate. And, you know, I probably certainly wouldn't say it the same way as that again, but I do need to go for a walk and think about, well, what are the metaphors? How are we helping people navigate this wave of new things that's happening? Now, the only way to do that is through conversations. And we're going to cover that in the next part of this starter kit. One of the things I've learned in my teaching career is that the more broadly I prepare for a lesson, the more able I am during that lesson to really engage with people. If I'm not prepared, I might just have a quick script to read and want to get through the points that I want to say. But if I'm really prepared, if I've done my research and practiced thinking about things, then I'm able to be fully present with the people that I'm trying to help learn something. Okay? A great teacher of mine helped me understand that gentleness comes from strength. And I've always really appreciated that lesson. The stronger and more prepared I am, the gentler I'm able to be. And speaking of metaphors, this metaphor applies to both physical strength, being gentle with heavy, delicate objects, right? And it also applies to human relationships. So when we come to conversations about Cardano, I think it helps to think of them as problem-based conversations. Jaime Casip, a famous educator, he's worked at Google, and I'll link to a video that I got this quote from. He asks these 3 questions. What problem do you want to solve? How do you want to solve that problem? And what do you need to learn to solve that problem? And he shows how personal these questions are. Not only the question about the problem we want to solve, but what can I do? How do I want to contribute? That's a very subjective question, and everybody's going to have a different answer to it. That's kind of the beauty of decentralization. We all have a chance to contribute. And then once you get people to talk about the problems they want to solve, now we can start asking them, okay, how can I help you? How can I help you learn what you need to know in order to do that? Now, we've been collecting videos from the community about how to talk about Cardano. And I want to share one of my favorite clips from Steve Aldrich. I'm going to let you see Steve drop the mic and then how he continues on, because I think it's a great way to kind of frame why we think about problem and project-based learning and what I mean by problem-based conversations. So here's Steve.
What problem does Cardano solve? What problem do you have? In the latest Catalyst funding round, we had 126 proposals, which are all solving for different problems. Look, blockchain, or more specifically Cardano, is not a solution looking for a problem, nor is it a silver bullet for all the problems of the world. The fact remains that financial and governance systems across the globe are in one way or another broken, or at least in need of a good cleaning up. If we can solve for the financial or identity or governance issues in places where these are a problem, then we have a successful project. If that then grows outward to solve other problems, which maybe we can't even comprehend today, well, that's just groovy.
Steve, thank you for that. And for everybody out there looking to start conversations, that's really all you have to say. What problem do you have? Now, what I really like about what Steve shares there is how he continues on to talk about how solving one set of problems opens up the door to solve more problems. This idea of incremental growth and iteration. Once we build habits of solving problems together, once we practice talking about them, then we can address even bigger problems, some of which, like Steve says, we haven't even imagined yet. So think back to some of that teaching terminology I shared with you earlier. How can you treat conversations as formative assessments? And based on what you learned from people, how can you scaffold for your friends and your family how to help them learn the next thing? How well are you bringing people into these conversations? Is your focus really on helping people learn? Or do you just want to tell people how great Cardano is? All right. All of us, that's what our community's for. Come on anytime and we could talk about how much we love this project and what we think it's going to do. But when it comes to talking about Cardano with your friends and family, please focus on learning. Please focus on what people understand so far and how you're going to help them understand what's next. We're not in charge because we're not here just to talk about what we want to talk about. We got to meet people where they're at. Again, remember, this is iterative work, and it's not about you digesting all this information that's out there. It's about how well you're prepared to help people understand things. So, this task is easy. Go have a conversation. And while you're having that conversation, think about what problems people are naming. Think about what metaphors might help, and maybe try using some of the ones you've brainstormed. And as you reflect on the conversation, you'll think of new ways that you might need to develop for explaining things. What questions came up? And then, if you want to, come reflect with the rest of us in Discord. You'll see a link in the materials accompanying this video. Come pop into Discord. Share questions that stumped you or you found particularly interesting. Share metaphors that you're proud of using. And if you put your foot in your mouth and you want to talk about that too, we'd love to hear that. I do it all the time. I'm probably doing it in this video. But this is our practice, right? This is how we learn and grow together. Now, optionally for this part, I was really moved by Frederick Gregards. I hope I'm saying his name right. The new Cardano Foundation CEO. I listened to a 30-minute interview of him on the Crypto Valley podcast, and I was really impressed. I really admired the way he was framing questions about Cardano adoption from a problem-based standpoint. And I would really recommend, I was talking before about choosing quality content. I would definitely recommend this as really high quality content, really interesting to hear that Cardano Foundation is in good hands as far as what I'm hearing there, but that he's got such a great grasp on approaching these conversations from a problem-based perspective. All right. So next, we're going to spend a few minutes going out into the real world and getting some ADA into people's hands. Hey, everybody. James here. I'm from Workshop Maybe, and we're filming a starter kit here on the corner of Franklin Street in Worcester, Massachusetts. This is my buddy Adam. Adam created the Workshop Maybe logo, and I'm going to use my Yoroi wallet to pay him for it right now. Adam, you got Yoroi installed?
Oh, absolutely, man.
Nice. When did you download it?
A couple days ago.
All right, so you got is it empty?
0 ADA.
No ADA yet. All right, we're going to pay Adam. We're going to get him into the ADA ecosystem using ADA. So I'm going to open up my Yoroi wallet. I'm going to get my send screen open.
Got a QR code.
Nice. I'm going to scan that. Here we go. Scan. Type in the amount. Good. Type in my spending password and go. All right, I hope this works.
Thanks, James.
You bet. Now, did it show up yet? It might take a couple seconds here.
Here it is. I got it.
All right, awesome. How's it feel to be holding ADA in your hand?
I'm stoked about it.
This is so exciting. All right, so all we want to do is encourage people, hey, think about opportunities to use this in your day-to-day life. Now we got Adam on board here. Actually, your name is so much like Ada.
It is.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay, we got Ada, Adam, we got in the house. We got Ryan behind the screen here. Ryan's got these really cool Ada coins. He just printed one for me on a 3D printer. So lots of exciting stuff happening around here. Adam, thanks for coming out tonight.
No problem, man.
And we'll talk to everybody soon. All right. So in terms of real world use, just sending a little bit of ADA back and forth between wallets is about the extent of what most people can do right now. Okay. That's all right. There's a lot more functionality coming out. The middle of next year, Goggen's going to be fully released, and we're going to be able to use it. In the coming months, as parts of it go online, we want to have chances to play with it, to see what we can do with it. And that's why Cardano starter kits exist. Listen, I really don't want to be the face and the voice of Cardano starter kits. I love doing this. I love sharing my own perspective, but I'm really hoping if I do this right, other people are going to want to contribute too. And that means you. If you find this question of how local use will contribute to the adoption of Cardano, please be in touch. I know this isn't the whole story. There's really important work going on at the enterprise level. There's really incredible work being done around Oracle pools and decentralized identities. And all of that is so important. It's groundbreaking. Alongside that, let's also address these questions of local adoption. All right. If you want to get involved, there's a Discord link to accompany this starter kit where you can come talk about the ideas in this starter kit, your own experiences with implementation, but you can also start to participate in some of the bigger conversations we're having. We would love to have you there. All right. There's one more part of this starter kit, part 4. I'm going to release it in a separate video. You'll see the links in the documentation here where we dive into Marlowe a little bit. And there's another call to action there with a project you can do. It's really exciting, the vision of the IOHK team around Marlowe. I was just watching the October development update earlier today. And just to see that team talking about how this is a tool they want to put in everybody's hands, that's what we're here for. That's what gets me up in the morning, and I'm so thrilled to try to contribute to that work. All right. Invite you to do the same. The action step for part 3, go out in your community, help somebody get hands-on with Cardano. Okay. It's challenging to buy ADA right now. Okay. So like I did, I had Adam design a logo for me, and I asked him, hey, can I pay you in ADA? And he was fine with that. So I did. Now he's got some ADA in his wallet. Now he can feel what it's like, and maybe eventually he'll purchase his own. Maybe he'll use the ADA I gave him to stake it, and he'll find out what that's like, right? Maybe he'll pay somebody else. This is how we drive adoption. Right? We just start getting the idea out there, and people start to say, okay, I see, right? There's going to be a lot more ways to get hands-on with Cardano in the years to come. For now, let's jump in. So to close out, we're going to go back to this question about having problem-based conversations. I'm going to let Sydney take us home in this story he tells about a conversation he was having with his brother. So thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Make sure to check out part 4 if you're interested in learning more about Marlowe. And I'll see you soon. Take care.
I mean, I don't know how these things will happen. I do believe the blockchain will have a hand in solving these problems. And I was having a conversation just before our call today with my brother, who is a police officer for the Memphis Police Department, and his wife, who manages nurses for one of the hospitals here in Memphis. And we had this deep conversation about how do we help people? Because in the Memphis area, there's a lot of things that occur that that are hard to deal with. A lot of lack of resources, a lot of violence, a lot of those types of things. And I was asking, so how do we fix those problems? And I was trying to pull that out of them, because I know without a doubt that blockchain will facilitate those solutions. So what they were telling me about the problem, I know that we can apply their solutions on a blockchain network that will meet each person individually where they are and help to resolve these huge problems that we've been talking about fixing for centuries now.